Sometimes things come up and you just can't get the job done. Yeah, I don't have the ogre battle video this week. I swear it will be up next week. Just some unexpected stuff happened and it's not ready. But I'll give you guys at least something to watch here. So I figured I'd give you guys a quick little video. I get a lot of questions like what's my setup for playing these games? So I'll show it off here. First, this is my Nintendo 64. I believe this is the Jungle Green theme. There were like 5 of these fun see-through colors. No connection to this specific color. I actually just had a plain black one growing up. I bought this at a retro shop in State College, Pennsylvania, like 2015, I think. So you guys have seen me play this, and it's actually HDMI modded. You see here, right under the multi-out, there's a little slot that's like, I believe, an HDMI mini slot. That had to be cut out and the port actually inserted there. But this thing has something called a N64 digital HDMI mod. It's now known as RetroTink. So there's this group called Pixel FX. They make kind of a generic HDMI mod. So you see now, here's the one for the N64. This was their original, I believe. And then I think some modders or groups or something kind of merged together, and now there's a lot of them like this. PS1 HDMI RetroTink. It didn't used to be called RetroTink. It was just called PS1 Digital. I'm not sure. But yeah, they have one for the N64, PS1, PS2, the Dreamcast, as well as the 3DO, the big 3DO community out there popping off. They get HDMI mod. And apparently they have a GameCube one. I actually didn't know about this. That's interesting. But yeah, it's not cheap. It's also a very advanced mod install. So unless you're very skilled with like soldering, even like cutting a piece of the plastic, it's listed as like advanced. My friend Big Eye did this for me. He's very good. And yeah, it's very nice. Love just being able to plug my N64 into HDMI. If you're wondering, I didn't always have this HDMI mod. This used to be an RGB modded N64. You can see here there's like these holes where there was a composite out so I could plug it into a CRT. I kind of wish they weren't there now, but it is what it is. After I beat Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, that's when I got the HDMI mod. So any videos before that, RGB recording. And the big thing for me with the HDMI mod is it has deblur functionality. I think it looks nice for the N64. The other consoles, it's whatever. But the N64 specifically has like heavy blurring, and I actually really like the deblur for most games. This is my controller. Just a stock N64 controller. Nothing fancy here. This is my memory card. It's not actually an official OEM memory card. Somebody makes these like 3D printed ones that essentially they'll last forever. Like this thing will never break, at least in my lifetime. Yeah, I've tried a couple other controllers. Like I've used a Hori controller. My friend has one. I don't really like the feel of it. Also, there's the Brawler 64, which kind of turns it into a 2 handheld controller. I just didn't like it. I like this controller. Like, I'm gonna show this. Like everybody makes the meme like, oh, I don't have 3 hands, but it works really well. Like you hold these 2 handles. This is the classic joystick grip. These 2 handles, the D-pad grip. And actually, a couple games, I know Sin and Punishment makes use of this. There's a third way to hold the controller. The D-pad and joystick grip. It's pretty cool because you move with the D-pad and like aim the crosshair with the stick. And I don't know. I do like this controller. It gets a lot of hate. I just don't think it deserves it. I also have this controller extender. It's just You can find it, I think it's on Amazon. It's pretty cheap because my N64 is a little far away. So it just makes the cable, it didn't add any latency, makes it a lot longer. Yeah. So if you're wondering, I just use a regular old controller. Nothing special, nothing fancy. This specific controller was actually sold to me by Abney, the guy who speedruns Mario Kart 64. He sold it to me for very cheap, and this is like an S-tier joystick. If you know about the N64 joysticks, they do not last, and I try to take care of this. Like, I would never play Mario Party with this controller or anything. I had a different controller that had a steel sticks bowl in it, and, well, I broke it. I tried to clean it up on my own, and I'm not very good at modding or anything in that sense. So, yeah, this doesn't have any mods. It's just a very good joystick. Yeah, I love the N64 controller. Now, this right here is where it gets fancy. This is called an Everdrive, and I'm actually quite surprised how many of the commenters have never heard of this thing. It's very cool. Basically, there is a micro SD card on the side, which quite easily comes out. And this has every N64 game on it. And a lot of questions, where'd you get those N64 games? So this thing's very cool. Basically the firmware, it reads the games off of the SD card. And they're all here. Now you may be saying, this is an emulator, right? And this gets into a weird thing, because if you've watched like the really original videos, you know I said I'm playing this all on original hardware. To me, there's like a difference between original hardware and original cartridges / discs. Like, to me, saying original hardware just means I'm on the actual console. I'm not using an emulator. And then kind of original cartridges is an extension of that. I don't know, like, you had these things way back in the day on the NES. A lot of you, if you had the NES back then, you probably played bootleg 4-in-1 carts or 10-in-1, or if you bought the jank Action 52 in 1, although you got 0 apparently. Kind of got scammed. Yeah, so this isn't behaving like a traditional emulator. Like, it can run into issues, but when you put in an N64 cartridge, all you're doing is loading a ROM file off of it, and then the console, you know, detects that, loads it up, and plays it. This is just the same thing. Like, it has the same internals as the actual cartridge does. Like, there's even a battery in there to play the Japanese exclusive Animal Crossing game to keep track of the clock. Every now and then, there could be issues. Like the Japanese fishing game Nushitsuri 64, it had an issue where I could only play one character's story. There's 6 in total. But for the most part, it runs great. Like, any types of graphical issues you'd have on the real console, it'll have it. Any type of lag, like, it'll be the same lag. Like, basically, this is kind of like if you had all the N64 carts and went, and now you have a cart that just is all the carts. Like, it's different from an... I don't know, maybe I'm not a good technical explanationer, whatever. But this is not running like an emulator at all. Like, it's the exact same as it would play on the real thing. Like, very rarely there can be issues, but it just doesn't happen often. Yeah, if I wanted to play Super Mario 64, I just boot it up. And there it is. I think that's quite loud. So let's turn that down.
Hello!
And like, yeah, if this was on an emulator, you can already tell this is not running. Even this is lagging a bit. This is how it would do on the original cartridge. And what is going on with Mario's eyes? Any graphics that you're like, this doesn't look like mine does when it's run through composite is correct. That's due to the HDMI mod. That's not due to the Everdrive. The HDMI mod turns the analog signal into a digital signal, and there are some other filters that are being applied. I'll show you this. This is the RetroGem menu. You can, so like here, deinterlacing. It does support motion adaptive deinterlacer, which I believe is the industry standard currently. I'm not too familiar with deinterlacing. I think it's when you get like a 480i signal instead of 240p. The I stands for interlace, so it just undoes that for a modern display. But here's where things get interesting. So smoothing. De-blur, I talked about this earlier. The N64 has a heavy blur effect. So if I shut this off, it's not super obvious with Mario 64 actually, that this even looks different. I think if you look at the bricks in the castle in the background, you can slightly see it. This just isn't a great example of how this is. Maybe it's just because this is literally the first game. Maybe this didn't de-blur that much, but I guess Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, this is a much more modern game. This is a very good example of how the HDMI mod is quite an improvement, at least in my opinion, graphically compared to my former RGB N64. It looks great. And yeah, there's a little bit of artifacting there on the textures. You can see like the wall near. Anyway, the point of this is the Everdrive is not an emulator, at least in the traditional software sense, like if Project 64 or whatever people are using nowadays. It behaves nothing like that. It's running the game on the original hardware. Now, here's something very cool. The let me see, the RetroTink 4K. I just got this very recently. In fact, this video should be in 4K. I'm actually experimenting with that now and using a different video editor. So hopefully this gets rendered properly. We'll see, I guess, once you guys watch it. Is this overkill? Absolutely. We're converting a 240p game to 4K, but like, come on, why not? This thing's very cool though. I do recommend a RetroTink if you're like an enthusiast and you don't have a CRT. Not the 4K, this is just absurd, but you can see it takes, that's a composite input. It also has a SCART, so if you have RGB console or if you're just in Europe. It also accepts component, VGA, and also you can see there's an HDMI in port. Oh, camera. Come on. I think if I do this, yeah. So actually something like the Nintendo Switch or, I don't know, the Xbox 360, PS3, you can plug that in and the RetroTink will cleanly upscale it to 4K for you. Well, if you get the 4K, this thing's not cheap, but there are cheaper alternatives for the RetroTink. One very good thing this does is it solves what people call the Chrono Cross problem. Basically, a lot of old games, they would show, like, if something busy was happening, like, you know, you're in gameplay, it would be run at 240p. And then when they're like, oh, well, now nothing's happening, like we went to the menu or we paused, it may swap to 480i. And a lot of retro upscalers, when that happens, they'll just break, like, and the only way to get it back is like unplug it, plug it back in. It's extremely annoying. I actually used to deal with this because I used to use a FrameMeister when my N64 was RGB modded. The HDMI mod I have actually takes care of that as well, but there would be several games where Big one was Top Gear Rally. Every time I exited a race, it would just die, and I'd have to go unplug the FrameMeister and plug it back in. This, it just cleanly detects, like, oh, resolution changed, and it basically instantly does it. You don't really even notice it happening. It adds no delay, anything like that. But I do recommend, if you like are really into retro gaming and you don't have a CRT, buy a good upscaler. Like, you can find a cheap one online. I don't know, what is it? Alibaba, something like that. But it's literally going to work. The problem is it's going to not look great, which maybe you don't care about. But the thing you do care about is it adds input lag. I don't know about you, but I don't want lag, even if I'm playing something chill like Ocarina of Time or whatever. Like, it sucks. So RetroTink, there's also OSSC, a cheaper alternative. You do need to do some of the configuring yourself, but it's not like super difficult. Really, RetroTink and OSSC are the two that I know of that I'd personally recommend. You could probably get OSSC for like $60 or something. So if you do play a lot of old games, I think it's a good investment. In case you're confused, I used my artistic skills to make this amazing, amazing diagram. So basically you take the N64, which is HDMI modded. It doesn't have to be though, even if you just have, you know, the red, yellow, white composite cables. Any model of RetroTink will accept that. And it goes in, mine goes into an HDMI switch because I have several consoles, like my PS1, PS2, Dreamcast are HDMI modded. I also have like my Switch 2. So then the output from that goes into the RetroTink 4K right here in the back. And then the RetroTink outputs to my capture card. Hopefully, if you have a 4K display, this video looks nice. Oh, you guys watching the videos, yeah, they're from a while ago. I got a new camera last year, so this camera and where I'm living are quite different. Alright, here is my retro gaming wall, I guess you could call it. There's my top loader Famicom. My very cool SNES. It's like custom painted. It has this little Yoshi figurine. I think it's pretty neat. I bought that ages ago. It's a Model 2 SNES, by the way. The classic, the N64, what you all know. Here's my GameCube. I do have an OEM, what is it called, component cable. I bought it a very long time ago, and now they're quite expensive. This is where my Wii would go if I had one. Pay no attention to that red thing into that switch. Don't worry about it. My Wii U, you can tell it gets a lot of use. Oh, this book. I'm actually in this book. That's why I randomly have this here. This is just junk. I randomly have an Xbox One. I have not used it in like 800 years. More junk. This is where I would put a Master System. This is where I would put a Genesis. This is my RetroTink and HDMI cables and all this mess. I do have a Sega Saturn and my Dreamcast. Love the Dreamcast. Oh, my PlayStation. This has a custom shell on it. I actually don't think I like it. I'm gonna get it replaced by the original shell someday. PS2, one of the greatest consoles to ever be made. This is where my PS3 would go. I do have a PS4 and a PS5. And I just recently obtained the Nintendo Switch 2. Been loving Mario Kart, very excited for Donkey Kong as well. But yeah, it's not aesthetically pleasing, but this is all my stuff. Alright, since this was up there randomly, I'll explain to you guys why I have this book. I'm actually in this book, believe it or not. And if you're an ancient viewer of the channel, you know I used to play Guitar Hero, like at a pretty high level. So a long time ago, one of my viewers said, "Hey, I found you in the Guinness World Record book." And I was like, "What?" And if you see, it's down there in the middle left of the page on the left. Highest guitar part score on a Guitar Hero game. On June 2014, the B721 scored 1,063,377 while playing Guitar Hero Metallica's epic Merciful Fate. As of 30th of March 2016, the highest score on any Guitar Hero game. Now, that is a real score, but if you're familiar with the game, that is the official chart with the highest possible score. But check this out. This is an old website, Score Hero. Shout out if you remember this. You can see here, this is like, I'm ranked 10th, but literally right above me on the Wii is a score from 2012. There's also this from 2009, 2010, 2014. Basically, you see there's a video link here. Oh, you actually can't see my mouse. Interesting. Oh, there it is. So you can see there's a video link. Unfortunately, this video's gone. A long time ago, I had Guitar Hero videos for several games. And I got an actual DMCA strike by Tool. I don't listen to Tool anymore. Screw them. But I was like, dude, they're going to delete my channel. And I didn't want that. So I just panic deleted every single Guitar Hero Rock Band video I had up. They're just gone. I wish I backed them up. Anyway, I didn't submit this score. I don't know how it got here. Somebody working there must have like just found my YouTube video and been like, yeah, this must be the top score. So shoutouts to Guinness for having very strict standards on how they determine what world records are. It wasn't actually the record, but yeah, that's just a funny little thing. But yeah, I guess that's all I have. I know people are looking forward to watching the next video. I do apologize. It's just wasn't in the cards this week. I really thought it would be, but well, here we are. But hopefully this was at least kind of interesting. Let me know if you have any questions about my setup or anything in the comments. I'll try to respond. And yeah, if you're still here watching, you're awesome.